Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for joining into this virtual talk, sharing session, we can call it that, from all over, I think, all over the world, basically. And I hope I could make it as interesting as possible and anyone could benefit or at least learn something from the work that I'm currently part of. So just a brief introduction of myself. I'm Don, an employee of Reef Check Malaysia, currently based here in Mersing as the Program Manager for Sustainable Tourism. So what is Reef Check? I'm not sure if you've heard of Reef Check before, the work that we do in Malaysia. Reef Check is actually a non-profit organization established in Malaysia since like 2007. I mean, we started off as an NGO and volunteers who specifically work on coral reef surveys. And after some time, so we get established, acquire funds to sustain our staff. That's where we go full out as a full-time. The organization managed to hire a full-time employee to work on conservation work in some of these sites, especially in Tioman, Mantanani, Mersing, and we also have in KL and KK. So our vision is basically to sustainably manage and conserve coral reef in Malaysia. Now, if you look at the map here, it's interesting about Zoom is you can still make this virtual talk more a bit engaging. If you notice, there's an option at the top says annotate, right? So if you're on Zoom or via your PC, you can click on that option and basically click on where you're from in the map. I know some of you from Canada, like just now mentioned. So probably you can just, just put a mark anywhere around the map. I'll do first. So there's an option of that, annotate. And then currently I'm based here. There you go. In Mersing, at the East Coast, southern East Coast of Johor. And some of the program area that we have is over here in Pulau Mantanani. And Tioman Island is also over here. And we do collaborate with some of the people and team in Redang as well. So if you want, you could also share which part of Malaysia you're from. Could you guys annotate as well? So Chukuling is in KL, all right. Can you use the annotate option?
Friends, do you know how to use the annotate option?
Go to view option.
Oh, on a Mac. How do you do it?
It's on the top of your screen. So when you put your cursor to the top, and then there's this bar that comes down, and there's this option says annotate. So you click on that button, and you can basically draw live on the screen. So if you're from Terengganu, so probably, oh, you put a star over here. May is in Terengganu, is it? All right.
Well done, May.
Yeah, just discovering this.
Yong is in China. He's trying he's in South China Sea.
Yong is writing China. Well
So
done, Yong.
Layang. He's in Layang, driving there.
Yeah, pointing up. Yong,
So,
well done.
Grace, I think Grace.
So I see some of you guys are in the middle of the South China Sea. It's okay. So yeah, this is normally one of the ways we keep engaged. We engage with some of the listeners or people who join in Zoom activities. So yeah, so normally we put up maps and just like draw or marks like which part of Malaysia are you at currently. So you can see some are in Perak, Terengganu, Selangor, KL. Some is currently swimming in the South China Sea, I can tell, and other part of the world as well. All right, so yeah, thank you for participating. that activity. Let's clear that. And yep. Okay. So yeah, so like I mentioned just now, we have base in Terengganu, in Mersing, the Mersing Islands. We also based in Tioman and also Mantanan. These are our island project base. However, we have team, our HQ is in KL, and we also have an office in Kota Kinabalu to oversee the Sabah projects as well. So just to see where we're at with corals. I'm not sure if you have ever dived or snorkeling before in your life, or what do you know about corals, but let's just give ourselves a try. So, are corals animal? Are they plant? Are they rock? Or interestingly, are they alien species who used to dominate Earth, comes to Earth like a million years ago, and probably trapped here, and after process of evolution and adaptation, they become corals. So you can put your answers in the chat or comment section. Are corals animal, plants, rock, or are they an alien species that have adapted to the Earth, to the Earth atmosphere after millions of years of evolution? So, okay, Dominic say animal. Interesting point of view. Corals are animal. No Googles are allowed. Yeah, this is a legit test. The plant, okay. Chaplin says a plant. Animal. Okay, so let's remove the two wrong answer. I mean, yeah. So are they animal, plants, rock, elements? So they are definitely not plant. All right. And they're definitely not a rock. So you can still change your answer if you want. Are they animal or the alien species? So final answer is corals are actually animal.
Oh, excuse me.
Yep. So most of the time we mistake them to a plant or rock because they don't look like a animal. They don't have eyes, they don't have mouth, right? And just from physical observation from this picture itself, it looks more of rock. But in fact, they're actually animal that made up of tiny animal tissue called polyps. So, but they're not a single coral. It's not consists of one animal, but it consists of hundreds or even thousands of tiny polyps animal. So, where are these polyps? Can we really see them? The only way to see polyps is by zooming in really close. So, for example, so this is a coral reef area. Now, if we zoom in over here, you'll see a lot of, you can see the coral structure, right? So this kind of coral is called like a tabulate coral, right? Or table coral sometimes. So now if you zoom in here a bit closer, you see all those tiny animals called the polyps. So we don't call them, so the best term of describing them is a coral colony, because coral live in colony. They don't live in like one single animal by itself. And all of these polyp, they have same DNA. Basically, they have the same DNA. So which kind of say twins throughout the whole structure. That's how I'll describe it lah. So there you go. Now, why coral reef matters and why, like I mentioned, that Reef Check focus on coral conservation and sustainably management of the coral. And one of the reason is obviously one, it's home to 30% of all known fish species, and in fact, they are nursery ground for up to 25% of all marine species in the world. So just to show you how are they actually home to 25 of all marine species. So here, this is actually a video of a time lapse, right, at the coral reef area. So there's no audio, you can just see the kind of fish that passes by or lives here. Yep. So you can see there's tiny fishes hiding in between the corals. You can see some damsel fish. You can see more damsel fish. And then you could also see, oh, there's a sergeant major fish just passed by. At the top here, you could see some grouper, some snappers. And then there was actually, oh, there's also rabbit fishes passed by. So it's not just a home, but it's a transit area for some fishes as well. Hunting ground for some of the fish, because like juvenile fish, they need to small spaces and area to hide, and that's coral reef is a perfect place for all these juvenile fishes to hide and live before they go out into the oceans or and where they grow bigger. Yep. So other than that, I mean, like, they're also food source for millions of people. They provide jobs in tourism and other marine industries. We know that most of the island destination, they sell coral reef ecosystem and this diving activities as some of their product. And now that there's also environmental significance of corals, just like mangrove, it protects our coastline from wave erosion. I'm not sure if you guys know, during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, right? So in Langkawi, the Datai Bay, so I mean Penang and Langkawi was affected by the tsunami, and there were incidents and stories that I heard when the waves kind of get the tsunami wave approaches the coast of the Datai Bay. It kind of the coral reef that's around that at the front of the coast in front of their beach kind of stops and acts as a barrier that reduces the forces of the force of wave that kind of approaches their beach, so that there isn't any they don't have any property or infrastructure damage during that time. So they thought it's gonna be destructive, but the reef kind of saved the resort, especially at that particular beach. So you can see here, so this is some of the coral reef site that we can see in the Mersing Island. And you can see in one particular area, there's different type of coral. You can have the branching coral, tablet coral, massive coral, and you have fish. So this is the kind of attraction that sells and for tourism to come to the island, especially for divers, snorkeling, or just people, anyone who loves the beach and the ocean. So that's why coral reef matters, not just because of a economic importance, also because of it environmental and also social, because we have a lot of coastal community relying on this ecosystem for their source of livelihood, culture as well. Now, so what do Reef Check do, right? So in our program, in all of our project site, doesn't matter if it's in Tioman, if it's in Mersing or in Mantanani Island, it evolves around these four core programs: eco-action, science, advocacy, and management. So we apply all these four core programs in each of our work in all of the islands. For example, eco-action, it revolves around coral reef health. Eco-action is all about coral monitoring. And that's where we conduct like a yearly coral reef monitoring. And in Mersing, we have 29 sites where we survey every year. And up to present, Malaysia, we have surveyed over 220 coral reef, and we have also trained more than 900 eco divers. So what are eco divers basically? They are they are basically licensed divers, right, who are trained on the indicators and the method of conducting the survey. So in the future, those who are eco diver, they could volunteer or join us during our yearly survey. So that's what we do lah. throughout every year, we have volunteers who wanted to join our survey, and since they are equipped and they are trained in some of the methods, so it'd be easier to acquire manpower to conduct the survey throughout Malaysia. Next is science. So science are all about building our understanding about coral reef. One of it is basically coral bleaching response plan that we have developed and adopted by the Department of Marine Science previously, and now is the Department of Fisheries. So normally when we go out in the field to survey, we also see some of the if there's any bleaching events. So, and if there are bleaching events, some of the location, there are high chances that bleaching events gonna be worse. Probably the water temperature increases too high. So this thing we have to alarm some of the local agencies and enforcers so that they could take further actions to reduce probably human impacts towards the environment and allow the coral reef to recover. Other science is also about rehab. The science work that we do is also doing coral reef rehabilitation work. So we experiment with different method on what is the best way for a particular to rehabilitate corals. For example, we have a site that is badly damaged, probably because of natural and human impact. So we put in structures to rehabilitate and recover the corals. Some method works, some method doesn't works, but over time we've discovered that there are methods that suits this particular location because of the water current and because it could last longer during the monsoon season and so on. So there's no really like one answer for everything, and that's what building the science and knowledge this core program is all about. Next is advocacy. Advocacy is generally just building awareness and reaching out to people. Even like this conversation that we're having, this sharing session is also part of the advocacy work. So part of the advocacy work is also sharing the findings of our Reef Check survey that we done earlier every year and sharing with local communities and stakeholders. In our advocacy program, we also do a Greenfin program where we train dive operators to method and approach so that they can reduce human impacts to the coral reef. So when a dive operator comply with the follow this program, they basically comply to some of the standards, for example, so that they could reduce human impacts, probably from the scuba diving activities. And it's also in the advocacy, we also do what we call the eco-friendly snorkel guide program. So because now we see a lot of island hopping activity, right? You go to island by island, people bring tourists. So some of the tourists don't know, right, what corals are. So eventually they step on it and then they throw trash in some of the beaches. So operators who are trained as an eco-friendly snorkel guide are more aware in terms of what are the do's and don'ts, right, when bringing tourists, people into reef. And it's not just about the environmental knowledge awareness, but it's also we also do training with in terms of safety, right, in terms of first aid trainings for them. So it's all inclusive into this deep trainings as well. So those are part of the advocacy activity that we do. Besides, outreach program with the local communities, doing beach cleanup, and other activities. And lastly is management, which is basically improving the management effectiveness of coral reef. So in management, the most important part is to include communities who have who uses the marine resources into the management and conservation of the marine resources. So this is mostly applicable for not just island communities, fisher community, but it's also applies to island hopping operators. It also applies to resort operators. So putting all these stakeholders into this circle so that they're not just made aware, but they also have a say. So when people have a say, they feel that what they say matters, So people are more willing to, play a bigger role into conserving and even protecting the marine environment. So far, any question? Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I have a question, Don.
Yeah.
Surveys that you say you do every year, and you have
Mhm.
220 or something. So you cover the whole of Malaysia, in other Sabah, Sarawak, all the waters around Malaysia.
So we have sites around Tioman, we have sites in Terengganu, and we have sites in Mersing. We have also have sites in Sabah as well. So Sarawak, if I'm not mistaken, we have volunteers who helped to take those data. So yeah, it comes up to 220 core sites around throughout Malaysia. But some of this, basically, how we work around gathering this data is, for example, in Mersing, we have staff like me who help to gather this data. For other location, we collaborate with the Department of Fisheries to collect the data together. But previously, and some of the cases before, we open like slots for volunteers who would like to participate in collecting the data. So those who are trained as eco-diver could join in. So normally we provide like, the tanks to dive, but other than that, for example, accommodation, food, mostly they cover themselves.
Okay, that's good. And over the period that these surveys have been done, I'm not sure how long this has been going on. Are we seeing a upward trend of improvement, and really that the health of these coral reefs are stable, or if not improving, hopefully not declining? I'm just interested to know what's the overall well-being like.
So I will share that information later on. So because it'll be specific to Mersing especially.
Okay,
Yep.
sure.
Hopefully I can answer that question later.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So if you guys have any question that I couldn't manage yet, so you guys can just put your question in the chat room, and we could just look back at this question and hopefully I could address. All right. So yeah, these are basically the four main core programs that we applied and we practice in all of our project site in the island especially. So which revolve around eco-action, the surveys, the science, building our understanding and our knowledge regarding the marine ecosystem at that particular area, because coral reef in there are corals in Terengganu and there are corals in Johor, Mersing, but each coral have adapted to their specific environment, right? So that's why there's a need to build our knowledge and understanding on the kind of environment where these corals are situated, and that's why the science part is important. Advocacy is all about sharing. It's about reaching out to people. It's about engaging with them, sharing back our findings, and also building local capacity towards marine conservation and the methods and how they could play a role in terms of conservation. Similar to management, it's some more about how people could properly could participate in managing the marine resource use around their island or related to that particular marine environment. Now, where is Mersing? So it's a brief overview of Mersing. I'm not sure if any of you have been to Mersing, but Mersing is basically located at the northeast coast of Johor, facing the South China Sea, right? Probably some of you have been in Mersing when you're about to go to Tioman, right? There's only two places for you to go to Tioman. One is through Tanjung Gebang, and another one is through Mersing. So in Mersing, the economy mainly focus around like ecotourism, fisheries, marine activities, agriculture, and small industry or manufacturing. But ecotourism plays a huge role here, and that is because of the vastness of natural resources that's available here. You see, in fact, okay, here. So due to Mersing richness, like in natural resources, especially the marine resources and island, the Johor 2020 Strategic Growth Plan focuses to develop Mersing under the theme Naturally Splendid. which kind of revolve around the use of or promoting its natural available asset specifically for tourism destination as well as agriculture and even for dairy. Now, despite the biodiversity and diverse ecosystem found here, Mersing is still not a widely known destination. In fact, if we think about it, when we talk about island vacation, right? Most of the time, we only talk about Tioman Island, Redang, and perhaps even Pertian Island. Rarely do we think of Mersing Island as our next island destination. So just to see how much we know about Mersing. So did you know that Mersing has total of 41 islands? Yeah, this is on the book. What's recorded official data, it says on the Taman Laut Sultan Iskandar website. It says that there's 41 islands in Mersing. The unofficial data says it's up to 97 islands, and these include the intertidal or submerged rock, because some of these kind of emerge during low tide and then kind of submerge during the high tide. And you see all these 41, the official number 41 islands are actually clustered into 5 main island clusters, namely the Pulau Sibu, the Pulau Tinggi, Pulau Besar, Pulau Pemangil, and Ao cluster. So just a glimpse into some of these island design. This over here, this is a pic. Here is Pulau Sibu, right? This is actually just a part of Pulau Sibu, not the total area. So this picture over here, this is Pulau Tinggi. It's called Pulau Tinggi because it is one of the tallest island basically over here. This is Pulau Besar, part of Pulau Besar, the main jetty, right? And this is Pulau Pemangil, and last Pulau Ao. So all these islands are actually individually, all these island clusters are individually unique. So if you see the map here, the islands that are closer to mainland are Pulau Besar. It's called actually Pulau Babi because, but now it's called Pulau Besar. It's common as Pulau Besar, Pulau Tinggi, and Pulau Sibu. These 3 islands are closer to the mainland, and the 2 furthest island from mainland are Pulau Pemangil and Pulau Ao. And it also means that all these 5 islands are unique in their own way in terms of the type of ecosystem that can be found here. For example, seagrass, right? Seagrass are mostly found at the seabed of Pulau Sibu, Tinggi, and Besar, the 3 main islands closer to land, the mainland. And it was recorded that there's more than a total of 10 species of seagrass found in Pulau Tinggi alone. And there's seagrass, there's also dugong and turtle, because this is they feed on seagrass as their main diet. And at times when you're really lucky, you could see a feeding trail, this is actually during the low tide. So when we walk through some of the seagrass area, we can see, if you're lucky, you could see trail of feeding trail indicating that a dugong has just visited and ate the seagrass at this particular seabed. Over here, and next is mangrove, right? So mangrove can be found in Sibu, Tinggi, and Besar also. And some of the common species you can find here are the Rhizophora, Avicennia, Bugera, and Suneratia species. So the tree here, this picture that you're seeing, this is of the Rhizophora species. In fact, these are the same species that is used to make your barbecue charcoal. Yeah. So this is also another mangrove. It's not really a mangrove forest, it's more of a mangrove patch. So this is also Rhizophora mangrove species. Other ecosystems that can be found throughout the Mersing Island is also coral reef ecosystem that are found all throughout the 5 islands, where there's more than 200 species found in the Mersing Island. So just a sneak peek into how does some of this coral look like. So this is a video taken at Pulau Ao Coral Reef. interestingly about Pulau Au is the water is really clear, right? And Pulau Au used to be known as a dive spot for divers from Singapore, from JB as well. Mainly Singaporean goes to Au to do their dive lesson and just basically enjoy diving activities here. Yep, I can't give you guys too much. I'm gonna save it a bit for later. All right. So yeah, that's just a sneak peek into Mersing Reef ecosystem. And since all of the 5 islands are like surrounded, like by coral reef, they are also where most of our reef survey and reef rehabilitation work are conducted. So hopefully, we could, so hopefully we get to, like along the way, I mean, we could do more surveys. We are planning to increase more sites to survey throughout the Mersing as well. Mersing Geopark. So currently there's actually an ongoing work to establish Mersing as a geopark district. Not many know that that Mersing is one of the location where that when a volcanic eruption happens 250 million years ago, and this is actually located at Penyabong, Mersing, at the northern part of Mersing. And so researchers have been trying to push to have Mersing be certified and recognized as a geopark district. And some of the geopark sites includes area at the island of Au. This is picture you're seeing here is at Pulau Au. Here is also Pemanggil, and lastly Sibu. So yeah, in fact, Mersing is indeed naturally splendid, blessed with the diversity marine life and ecosystem. In fact, there are more to be discovered in Mersing with more research that being conducted to understand the marine ecosystem here even better. But you see, as exciting as it is to know that there's more to Mersing to be discovered, now that you realize that, Mersing had a lot of islands, right? So, but there's also there's a growing concern towards Mersing in terms of how to manage some of the environmental threats and issues that the islands are facing. For example, coral reef health. I mean, just now your question, right? So from our survey, from the latest survey in 2021, our data shows that there's a reduction in coral cover from 57.9% in 2015 to 43.2% in 2021. So this is the Mersing coral cover. So in 2021, we had survey up to 29 sites throughout the Mersing Island. And you can see the decreasing in coral cover, the green colored bar here, which indicate as coral cover here, coral cover. And you can see from 2015 all the way to 2021, there's a gradual decrease. It's not really a drastic decrease, it's a gradual decrease in coral cover. While at the same time, when coral cover is slowly decreasing, coral cover means healthy coral, living live corals. Yeah. So when we survey, we don't just we check in a particular transect, 100-meter transect. We kind of measure how many the area where there is coral cover, healthy coral. So as you can see in the graph, as the coral, there's a gradual decrease in coral cover. The disturbance and pollution also gradually increase over time. So disturbance and pollution indicators could be from, could be damaged coral due to what you call anchors. There's also indicators for pollution, like where particular indicators like sponges, marine sponge, which are indicator for a lot of nutrients entering the environment. So actually, even though there's gradual decrease, the coral cover in Mersing is still considered in a fair health condition. But even though it's in fair health condition, it is still of concern because as you can see, the trend is decreasing. So probably if we continue here, just imagine there's 2025 here, so probably it will reach up to probably within the 30 to 40% range, which is kind of bad as compared to 2015 data. Another main concern for coral for the Mersing Island is also waste management challenges. So see, a lot of the islands probably in Malaysia and even in Sabah, Sarawak, all around the world, managing waste or trash is a challenge, because as compared to mainland, right? In mainland we have municipals, right? We have local agencies who manage our trash and that produced by us. But in the island, some island does not have a proper waste management system. Some island do not even manage their waste properly, right? So if you've ever traveled to any islands around the world or probably in Malaysia, you'll notice you will eventually, I'm not sure if anyone have ever wondered, like, how do people or that particular island manage their waste? Those who are really committed to manage their waste, they send their waste or their trash to mainland. Those who could not manage their waste or do not have the money to manage this, they would manage it themselves. How? Some of them burn their trash, some of them bury their trash, but when there's no more land for you to bury your trash, eventually throw them into the ocean. So just like any island, waste management, basically trash, is a challenge in the Mersing Island as well. And of course, threats from tourism impact. Since with more and media and promotion that market Mersing Island as a tourism destination, more people will come, especially like now, right? The border just opened. Everyone, all the tourism operators are looking forward to Singaporean tourists, KL tourists, and probably international tourists coming, so which indirectly increases the human nature contact. So tourism is important, to be honest, because a lot of these communities, island community, also rely on tourism as their source of livelihood. But the problem is when it's not managed properly, certain activities may threaten or damage the whole marine ecosystem, and this can be seen through like stepping on corals, picking up live corals, because just for not know that corals are living animal, they thought it's rock, so people just bring it out from the waters and then leave it to dry, and then eventually die off. Some damage could also be caused by boat anchoring, right? So yeah, those are some of the impact from tourism activities. And lastly, natural threats and impact as well. So the picture that you're seeing here, this is a crown of thorn starfish, a natural coral predator. But when they overpopulate, they could also threaten the whole ecosystem by killing or they feed on live coral, in fact. So there's also a phenomena called bleaching event. So this is when water temperature rises too high, causing the coral to turn white and eventually die. So even with all the natural resources and marine ecosystem found here in Mersing, there are definitely threats that could have a significant impact to the marine ecosystem, both from human as well as natural threats as well. And that is why that is what Reef Check Malaysia is trying to address in Mersing by applying the Reef Check RCM programs in Mersing, the Eco Action, Science, Advocacy and Management. So in Eco Action, we do reef monitoring and surveys, and this is done yearly. In fact, it's not just among Reef Check members. We also work with the Department of Fisheries, Johor Department of Fisheries, as well as other local NGOs and even island communities like from Sea Island, and some of the local NGOs like the Tengah Island Conservation will help us conduct some of these reef survey. So just to share with you the work we do underwater. So here's a video of our reef check survey that we conduct in 2020. Mersing Island Johor Reef Check Survey 2020. All this video are actually taken in Mersing itself.
Kecil besar, so pastikan dia punya cakram tu semangat dia senang tu
survey is where we basically collect data on live coral cover. So sometime in a single day, we conduct up to three or four dive. Of course, we take safety measures, and all of these are done by professional divers, especially from the Department of Fisheries. So we go to the same dive coordinate here. So we can see some of the trouble that we have to go through to get to this exact location, radius, I would say, every year. We also do invertebrate survey. And these are, say, for example, sea cucumber, giant clams. So the difficult part is always where you have to key in those data immediate, because we're going to use the same slate to put our next dive in the next day. Sometimes we're lucky, get to see some turtles along the way. Survey as well. Normally we take account of fish that are mostly harvested, like grouper. Yeah, we have snapper as well. It's commercial fish. These are some of the impacts that we see. Some of the fish cage placed in hobby. Kind of damage the reef structure as well. All right. So for the reef survey, and in terms of science, to continue, this is the second core program that we apply, which is improving understanding of coral reef science. So this is where we install reef rehab sites throughout the Mersing Island. We have installed it in Pulau Tengah, Pulau Tengah, and last year we've installed it at Pulau Besar. So it's basically to see what method works. This is an example of picture of some of the that other sites, other island site use. So normally what they do is recycle bottle, embed in a cement structure, and that's where we transplant or we rescue corals that were broken, probably by natural or human impact, and then we transplant them on the bottles, and then we just see, like, over time, monitor them, maintain them, and see their survival, and if they could adapt to the environment where they were located. So all this information kind of give us an idea of if this method works in this particular area. So if this doesn't work, so probably we have to modify it in our next site or next experiment. And the advocacy as well. So advocacy is where we raise awareness. We reach out to stakeholders. The Reef Check survey findings, we share it with the Department of Fisheries. We share it with the resort operators. We share them back to the island hopping operators so that they know that what are the conditions of the coral reef that they normally bring people to, right? So some of the islands, we inform them that some of the islands are badly damaged. So please please be a bit more on alert on some of the guests that they bring and some of the activity that they could offer to the guests. So, and advocacy is also like, having the islanders or community to participate in our program. So beach cleaner, on the bottom right, you can see those are not child labor. These are basically island kids basically joining us in our beach cleanup activities as well. And of course, management, where we improve the marine resource management. It's also about, having these island communities be part of our program, uh, giving them a platform to share their views on, are they satisfied or unsatisfied? Do they participate more? Do they want to do they want to be part of the conservation program that we conduct yearly? So this, being inclusive, allow them to not just be aware but play a bigger role, because of people like us, Reef Check, we are not, some of us are not 24/7 based in the island, right? So it's the island communities who are staying in the island, who are surrounded, who uses those resources. So having them be part of the effort, uh, to kind of makes a huge difference. And that's why a lot of the marine resource management, marine park management around the world, kind of what they call invites are open to have communities to be part, to play a role as well. Now, why does this work matters? Mainly, I think personally, I think it's our civic duty, and it's responsible to protect and conserve the environment, because as much as we think that this marine resources is an infinite resource, it actually isn't, right? And this is proven from our yearly reef survey data. You can see a decreasing trend in some of the coral reef. And as much as I could emphasize more on the ecosystem significance of coral reef and on about, the environmental importance, but at the end of the day, as we protect the Mersing marine ecosystem, we are also protecting the vulnerable communities that relies on them as their source of culture, livelihood, and home. Because as compared to all the other islands, right? For example, like Tioman, a lot of the island community in Mersing are generational fishermen, and they rely on this marine ecosystem as their source of livelihood and culture, because this is who they are and their identity. So the fish they catch, the fish that they catch does not just sustain their family, but it also contributes to the businesses that are involved in the fishing industry. So similar to mangrove, coral reef also act as a natural barrier that protects our coastline from strong wave and erosion, which eventually to protect the homes of this coastal community. And if you notice, if you have ever drive from Terengganu, the east coast, all the way down to Johor, you'll see more and more of our beaches are eroding. I mean, 60% of Terengganu beach are just covered with huge rock boulders. So having this, protecting this coral, also protecting the homes, these coastal community homes or beaches, and because that's what's going to be left after we're not around, right? So it's not just the marine ecosystem that benefit from this work, but also the local economy and community, each we directly and indirectly. And as much as I would say, as much as I could play a role, as people like me who work in the field, actually everyone could play a role, not just those who work in the field. So if if you know any organization that's doing conservation work, if you want to volunteer with them, go ahead. And some of these organizations, just for you to know, during COVID, right, a lot of the field activity are temporarily stopped. So a lot of these NGO are struggling financially because some of the project relies on funds, and when the fund kind of finishes, or they could or the project ends, and that's where the struggle, all these NGO struggles to look for funds to continue or sustain the project. So get to know some of the NGOs that they're working on the particular ecosystem that you really care for. Probably if it's coral, look out for an NGO that if it's if terrestrial or it's mangrove forest, look out for those NGO and get to know the work they're doing, and just give support they need. Or probably, and it's as simple as sharing the work that they are doing as well to the public. So yep, I'll say thank you for taking some time to listen to my sharing session. If you would like to know more about our work, you could log on to our website www.reefcheck.org.my, and we publish quarterly. Every quarter we share a newsletter of all the work that we're doing in Mersing, in Tioman, and in Sabah as well. So if you like to know more, some of the be updated with some of this work, so you can just subscribe to our newsletter. And we have also just recently published our yearly Reef Check survey publication. So you can also just download our findings, our Reef Check survey findings, to know what are the health status of the coral reef, especially in Terengganu, in Johor, in Tioman, and even in Sabah. And if you want to really be updated of the work that I'm part of here in Mersing, you could also follow us on Cintai Mersing on our IG and Facebook. So we share our work. It's in Bahasa Melayu. The reason why it's in Bahasa Melayu is because we wanted to share our work mainly to the local in Mersing. So Mersing local are mostly Bahasa speakers, so that's why we have it in Bahasa language. But yeah, follow us on Cintai Mersing, IG and Facebook, and just we look forward lah, in case you guys want to volunteer ke apa or like to know more, just log on to our Reef Check website. That's all.